And we're away, and we are broadcasting. Hello, welcome to the EA live stream. EA E3 has just finished. It is now 10:30 exactly here in the UK, and we have about half an hour. So this stream will last exactly until the Ubisoft conference actually starts. Believe we might have a special guest with us today if he's about. Hello, Mr. Gracie.
Hello.
Hello. So for those of you who don't know, which will be all of you, this is just basically my man Oliver, who's going to join us today. Yeah, he's going to join us today as we're going to go through what's going on at E3 from EA. Overall, I thought it was pretty mediocre, to be perfectly honest. They started off quite well with the new Mass Effect, with absolutely stupid name, Andromeda or something. I have no idea how you're supposed to pronounce that. But yeah, stupid name. There wasn't really anything to see there. They basically just gave us some gameplay footage. Oh no, wait, they didn't. It's literally basically just announced the game. So that was a little bit annoying.
What stream are you watching it? Which feed are you using?
I was just using the standard YouTube one. If you go on the YouTube homepage, they are streaming everything there. So I would say that's probably the best place to watch them.
Yeah, it's all a bit laggy for me.
I'm assuming that the Twitch ones are going to be similar feeds, and I'm assuming the Ubisoft one will be on YouTube as well. I believe they are using their new YouTube gaming system for that. So yeah, what do you think? New Mass Effect, Ollie? What are you saying?
I didn't see anything about that yet. I haven't seen anything from EA besides.
So you haven't seen any of the streams. So the thing we're talking about, you haven't seen any of it.
Not a whole lot. I've seen some of the game release announcements and trailers and things.
Doesn't really help us here, does it?
What do you want, man? What do you want from me?
Well, I wanted your opinion, but you haven't seen it. Doesn't really help. Then the next thing they showed anyway was Need for Speed, and actually I think this was probably my favorite thing about the entire conference. And you might be saying that's mad, obviously, because of the whole Star Wars Battlefront thing. But I think it was just pretty well presented. I mean, I've always been a fan of the series. I mean, I haven't played the last couple of ones. It's just I think they definitely needed to go back to where they started, back to sort of basics and reboot the series, which I think, I mean, Need for Speed is such a long-standing series. I think it kind of maybe did get a little bit tired, got a bit lost in places. So I think actually it's going to be pretty good. I don't know.
Reboot some of the films recently as well.
They did make a film, and they didn't use any CG at all whatsoever. And yeah, I haven't seen the film. I've heard it was the film quality itself wasn't great, but the actual sort of technical side of it was. So we'll wait and see whether that's actually going to be any good or not. But yeah, there was a seamless sort of cutscene with like real life actors in it to gameplay, which seemed pretty cool. So they cut from the camera actually showing people talking, and then it went panned to a car, and then it kind of seamlessly went into customization of that car, and I thought that was pretty cool. How much of that will remain in the game, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, these are all E3 trailers, so they are probably going to get changed a bit. I mean, most of them will say if their gameplay, this is pre-alpha gameplay, likely to get changed, but we'll have to sort of wait and see about how well that goes anyway. If there is a lot of customization, like it looks like there is going to be, and then that's pretty cool as well. I don't know, how fussed people are about Need for Speed anymore. It used to be the thing, especially going back to the Underground the original Underground, and of course Most Wanted sort of days. So I'm pretty looking forward to it actually. It's always been a good mix between racing mechanics and something that's enjoyable. I've never been so interested in like the real racing things like Forza and things like that. So that should be pretty cool.
How about we talk what everyone's here for though?
That's coming at the end, mate. You want to talk about Battlefront? You want to get that out of the way now?
Right, the trailer I've seen.
All right, okay.
Right, you start.
I start. Well, it was pretty damn cool. I think that's the most obvious thing to say. It took me a while. It took me almost a couple of minutes to actually realize they were showing off the multiplayer. For the first couple of minutes, I was thinking I was watching single player.
As far as I know, there isn't a single player in this game.
They said there's going to be missions. They said
Yeah, but there's no like campaign. It's very much multiplayer focused.
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it depends, because this is something, and I said this yesterday in my stream. It literally, this thing has to deliver. There's so much relying on it. If it doesn't deliver, then it's just going to completely destroy the Battlefront brand, really, and it's not going to do EA any favors.
It's going to shit on like the time-loved classic, which is Battlefront.
Well, people are still playing that now. I mean, that was one of the main sort of games people would be playing on their Xbox 360. Like the original Xbox, that disc worked, and that's the game I would say is probably most played. People love that game, and understand.
Let's not forget though that those games also had a lot more options when it came to the actual battles, like space battles for one thing, which they've come out and said already are not going to be a thing.
Yeah, well, they showed, obviously there was I think the main impression I got of Battlefront really was the fact that it was pretty much literally just Battlefield 4 but Star Wars, and I don't know whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, is that what you got?
I guess it's, you can see the roots, kind of like the Battlefront aspects of it, but it's still very much Star Wars. And I think like the trailer did a good job, and they seem to have really kind of captured the whole Star Wars aesthetic really well. Like it doesn't just look like Battlefront with Star Wars skin. It looks like a Star Wars game, right? I didn't really much like the UI.
Well, that's what
that can change, obviously.
Yeah, you're talking about like the whole. What are you talking about?
Like the health bars and the things in the corner.
Yeah,
I think they looked a bit kind of rudimentary, simple. Not very Star Warsy. Yeah, it didn't really fit in with the aesthetic either, in my opinion.
I think obviously it's probably quite likely they'll do a beta, and that's the sort of stuff they'd probably change then.
Yeah, and I got to say the in-cockpit views are awesome. Like I
definitely
very true to the source material there.
Hopefully
they control decently.
No, the thing, like if we think about Battlefield 4, they introduced what they called Levolution, of course, where we had things like buildings and stuff falling down. And for the technology that we have available in games today, I think that the balance of that was pretty cool. I mean, if you did that, I remember playing the Battlefield 4 beta on the PlayStation 3, and it just couldn't cope with it. And obviously, if we had something that was a bit more dynamic than that, it just wouldn't work. But that kind of worked in Battlefield 4, where we had buildings and stuff falling down. It seems like in Battlefront, there's going to be things like that with the scene they showed off where all the cables were going around and brought obviously the big thing down on the ground. And
one thing to mention when it comes to kind of destructible environments, a lot of Star Wars battles and things are done in open plains rather than built up cities and stuff, which we're used to from Battlefront.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we're not going to see a load of buildings falling down, but I mean they're going to try and put something Levolution like in the game. I'm not saying they need to, but I'm sure they probably will.
Graphically, I wasn't super impressed.
Yeah,
but I didn't have super high expectations because it is a multiplayer game predominantly, right? And I'd rather they kind of get a really good game style and like make sure that there's enough players in the battle rather than focus on graphics this time around.
Yeah.
It did kind of look, I don't want to say it looks worse than Battlefield 4.
Well,
it's just like different, right? It's
are you bearing in mind obviously the compression you get?
Yeah, YouTube compression and all that.
Yeah. It's difficult.
It looks good though, right? I mean, it didn't look bad.
I thought it looked pretty good. I don't know how much it means because obviously this is E3 footage, but there was a square symbol which would indicate it was running on a PlayStation sort of.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed fairly.
So it's difficult to say exactly what it was running on.
It seemed fairly reasonable that this is kind of like the final product. I'd be surprised if it looked worse than this because it's not like mind-blowingly impressive, like say the Division's first trailer was,
Yeah. So the guy in the comments was starting at Battlefront.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was really difficult to say without playing it, isn't it? I mean, you see some.
Yeah. I think it's going to be really fun. Whether it has any longevity to it, it's going to depend on the maps and the game modes, I reckon.
Yeah.
I'm more than slightly concerned there's no space battles, because when I used to play Battlefront 2, that used to be a big thing to kind of mix up the gameplay style, because otherwise you just end up doing the same thing, just different maps, right?
I mean, how do you reckon that would work, though? I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't put it in, but when you look at games like Star Citizen, then when that is their thing, you could maybe say that if people are going to play that sort of thing.
No. It doesn't have to be anything as complex as that. I mean, they could literally just do what they did in the previous games, just kind of give it a fresh lick of paint, just upgrade it. I mean, just the whole game mode was pretty genius at the time, and not many I don't think any other game really offers that kind of game mode either. It was very unique to Battlefront, whereas the actual fighting on the ground kind of combat, I mean, this is pretty much what you get in Battlefront 4, right? It's just Star Wars.
Yeah, no,
I felt
that's the main thing I took away from it. It's definitely the main thing I took away from it.
The space battles were a very unique part of it, which I think is a shame, which they're not going to put those in.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff on their website that they've got. I'll quickly link that in. Where are we? We're there. So 40 player battles, so it's not as big as 64 like you get.
Yeah, that's another thing. 40 players. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough.
It depends how much is going on screen, doesn't it? I mean,
but you would hope that the maps are big, right?
I mean, I don't really care how big it is. I care it's just about the balance. I mean, Titanfall has this tiny amount of players, but there's so much going on. And I'd say it works really well.
Would you say it would be a design failure if the maps was smaller than the maps in Battlefront 2, for example?
I would say
because the maps were quite big in Battlefront 2.
Yeah, no, they were pretty big.
I remember Hoth, and that map's pretty damn huge.
Can you remember what the player count was?
It was pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was never I never thought that there wasn't enough players.
Yeah.
And there was definitely I think they had a pretty good kind of bot system as well, where if players dropped out or whatever, bots would step in. It'd be pretty seamless.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously the AI.
It was a bit rubbish. Yeah, but I mean, product of its time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, no complaints there. I mean, I would definitely say I picked up on the character models. Really did look really good. Especially, I mean, the main one really they showed off obviously was Luke Skywalker, and it really does.
I don't know about that. He's kind of wearing some weird kind of hot pants suit, and his face looks a bit off, in my opinion. I was more impressed at the beginning when they were running through the tunnels to get to the actual battle. I thought that looked pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was very impressed with it, to be honest. I mean, at the whole E3 EA, I keep getting confused between E3 and EA. The whole E3 sort of press conference, I thought it was very much, the start was very good, the end was very good, and then the middle sort of was a bit mushy. But you're saying you literally only saw the end of the Battlefront bit, really, then?
Yeah, I've seen the trailers for it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. This is very early days.
It's very early days. I mean, they said
there are some things which you might want to hesitate. There are a lot of people who are kind of against this game, for good reason, because EA haven't really been great when it comes to releasing good products lately, like most other AAA publishers.
What would you say is EA's last proper standout game that really sort of changed things for you?
You see, I don't really know, because I haven't played an EA title for quite some time. I enjoyed Battlefront 4, but I didn't play it when it came out, and I know it was a complete.
You mean Battlefield 4? You kind of.
Sorry, Battlefield 4.
It's easy to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it later down the line, but I know that was not a good game when it came out. I'm not sure. Hopefully Battlefront will be the game which they can be very much proud of and does well.
Well, I think if it goes well, then obviously they deserve it, because they haven't. To be fair,
honestly, I think it will sell
very
well, regardless of whether the game is good.
Completely.
The fact that it's also coinciding with the reboot of the movies and all that, there's so much hype for Star Wars at the moment. this game is going to sell like crazy, like hotcakes. But whether it's any good or not, we'll have to wait and see.
People were saying on PC there was 120 player mode.
Yeah, I can believe that, because I do remember like lots of players.
And do you think it would ever be feasible / any good to have a full 150 versus 150 mode on Battlefront? I just don't think that would really work. A proper skirmish, giving the big battle feeling of old Battlefront single player missions. So I assume we're talking.
I think it would be
here.
cool as hell, but with the limitations of consoles and things, I don't think.
When you say that, do you remember? I think it was Mag. I never actually got around to playing it. Did you ever play Mag? It was on PlayStation 3. Mm-hmm. That had something. No. That was like 120 something players, and that was on PlayStation 3. I don't know whether that was any good. Leave a comment if you did play Mag. Never got around to it. I heard it was pretty good, but never really got it. So, I mean, I'm sure it's doable, but it's when you look at Battlefield 4 and just the whole Battlefield franchise, there's still plenty of problems today with 64-player games. So just ramping that up would just have too many problems. And obviously, a lot of the time, you're working to the lowest common denominator when it comes to people and their connections. So if you get someone with laggy connection, that's just going to ruin your game. And if you have 300 players, then yeah, that's obviously going to affect things. But yeah, Battlefront, they said it'll release November 17th this year. Hopefully, it won't get delayed.
November's a busy month.
November is a very busy month, and of course, end of October as well. You've got a lot of good games coming out, which that combined with the fact that they've got Battlefront, actually, I think I am quite relieved that they didn't launch or at least mention a new Battlefield game. I think that's good because, again, Battlefield 3, I would say, is my last properly big EA game that really did change things. I would say Battlefield 3.
Okay, how long ago was Hardline? Because that wasn't very long ago.
February.
Yeah, so...
And that was a run over. That was meant to release last year, but that
Battlefront as a franchise probably needs a reboot now, like something fresh to it.
Or Battlefield.
God, yeah, Battlefield, not Battlefront.
Yeah,
Battlefield needs a fresh start, I reckon.
It's literally the last 3 games all been the same.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
and so that was the thing that always separated them, really, other than the actual, obviously, the gameplay itself from Call of Duty, was the fact that they took their time and they released different games with new features. And you think how far we've come with Battlefield. It's a shame. It's basically the last 3 games have all been way too similar, really. So yeah, Bad Company next year is what we need.
One thing I will, sorry, just to go back to Star Wars.
Battlefront.
One thing which we don't really know much about yet is the classes. Now, Star Wars Battlefront 2 had a lot of very interesting different classes and stuff that you could play as droids or like all sorts of different play styles, pretty unique ones.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if those are going to make a return or if we're going to get more kind of generic support engineer kind of classes. I hope it's not the case, but
it needs to be different to Battlefield. There was some very interesting That's the main thing. It needs to be different. And that was one of the reasons Hardline kind of failed to grab people's attention, is because it was just too similar. Like, again, the class system, they changed it slightly. They gave you like a crossbow and things like that. It's not different enough for really to warrant a whole new game. And when you've got this Star Wars franchise, beneath you, beside you, you really should be properly utilizing it, which is obviously the thing they're going to struggle with, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll wait and see.
What about while we're on Star Wars? What about the Old Republic? You still playing that?
No, I don't play it. I mean, I've played it in the past. I know it's kind of had a bit of resurgence lately, and they announced a new expansion, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think that game is quite clunky, and the engine that it's run on kind of limits how much the game can grow over time. I feel like the engine's really limiting, and the combat isn't that great.
It's quite a good proposition, I think, value of money wise. While I've quickly got this on screen, I was just quickly on Metacritic, and don't know how interesting this is, but if you actually look at...
Such a reliable source of information, Metacritic.
Well, it is really. I mean, if you want an average figure, it gives you an average figure. If
Aggregated scores are not
Well,
average
regardless
figures.
of that, so that's a topic for another time. If we are looking at previous Star Wars Battlefront games, none of them are. The highest one I've got on screen is Battlefront 2 on PS2, which was 84. So it's high. Don't get me wrong, but it's not exactly sky high, is it? I mean, that's the highest one. If we look the PC version 78, Battlefront 2 PSP. Well,
I don't honestly think looking at Metacritic scores for games which are 10 years old is a great way.
No, maybe not. But the point
Battlefront 2 is pretty
that,
well known as one of the best kind of old school games of the previous era. So
yeah, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying that it's not. It's like you said. The problem that the next Last of Us game has got is Metacritic score was something like 98, and it's just across the board, flawless. But no, we shouldn't all be comparing games to Metacritic. But it's
what I'd say is honestly, Metacritic is kind of a pile of bull.
Mag had a 256 player simultaneous on the PlayStation.
That's insane.
That is for a PlayStation 3. That's very mad.
That would be a complete clusterfuck, I imagine.
But that is Battlefront. Anyway, we've got about 10 minutes till the Ubisoft press conference starts.
What is going to be in that? Because as far as I know, they already announced a lot of their stuff.
Maybe talking about Division, might announce a new Far Cry, things like that.
I guess Division will be the big thing. Everyone's kind of wondering how that's going to pan out.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, I really don't like how they announced it so long ago, because it feels like this game has just been...
it's because they got delayed. That's the thing. Like, if don't announce a game unless you know it's gonna not. You can delay a game, but by delaying it by that much, it's
yeah, exactly. I think this is where Bethesda does it right. They announce a game a couple of months before they release it, and then like everyone has time to get hyped and excited. But when you announce something a year, 2 years, 2.5 years before, it's really hard to still be excited down the line.
No, I can't say I'm excited for that at all. But anyway, that's the Ubisoft one. We have 10 minutes. So that was Need for Speed, Star Wars, and then the Star Wars expansion to the Old Republic. Then they got a bit artsy with a new game called Unravel. Again, there's a little bit of a gameplay trailer. It's a side scroller, very difficult to say whether that will be any good. Can't say too much on that.
It's kind of just their nod to like indie. Like all of the developers are doing it. I'd say
it's kind of half indie. It doesn't look like it looks.
Yeah,
like,
but they're all kind of making these displaying these small kind of indie games just to show that they support that.
In E3, but it's almost maybe got
it
too much, isn't it? Would you say it went from not having presence at all to maybe too much? I mean,
maybe. Indie games have been getting a lot of flack lately in terms of like the quality of them. So every now and then a little gem comes along for sure, but we'll have to see. I don't think it's bad that a lot of the games are indie.
No, and then they went on to Plants vs Zombies 2. Touched on that in the last stream. I don't have particularly too many ties to that game, but I heard Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare was pretty good, so there's a sequel to that and Garden Warfare 2. And you can see why I started to get a little bit, like not necessarily bored, but I started looking at Seven Oaks Sound and Vision speakers at this point, and I kind of went off. They talked about the new sports game. So we've got Madden, we've got the new golf. It's not called Tiger Woods anymore, is it? It's called. Can you? No chance you'll remember.
Nope.
Can't remember. Comments, please. This is where live comments come in handy. I can't remember what's the golf one called. But the golf one is using the Frostbite. Frostbite. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, but there's a name. It's always sponsored by someone. NBA.
Did you mention Mass Effect?
I did mention Mass Effect. Yeah. Okay.
What did you like? There was nothing really there, right?
No, there's nothing there. It was nothing there. It's like
the trailer was nothing. Yeah.
The trilogy of games are awesome, but like it's almost just like they're lagging for time. I mean, like what they showed could have been made, in one afternoon, small team.
Yeah, as far as announcement trailers go, that was pretty shit. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, they weren't even announcing it. They announced it before. Like, if that was an announcement, it'd be fine.
Yeah, it should have been a kind of a build-up hype first trailer.
Rory McIlroy,
that kind of thing.
I can't say his name. Rory McIlroy. God, how do you say his name? McIlroy. That's the one, isn't it? Yeah. So it's his golf, is it? I don't know.
Who cares?
My source is Burn Dog Skate. I don't know whether he's a reliable source. Then they
buys these games. That's what I want to know.
NBA still going to be catching up with 2K15, 2K14. Yeah, they've got a way to go from what I've heard. They've got a scanning app. Let's be honest, it'd be terrible. You can scan your face in on to be a basketball player on your appearing game.
I think they did that with the last game.
I don't know
That's
how
not a new
it's
feature.
not. It's certainly not going to. Certainly not going to. More. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, when it comes to sports games, it's pretty damn hard to kind of innovate between iterations. Like, what do you add? You know, more different basketballs. So what do you add? It's the same thing. It's just like it's literally the same thing.
They look very good. They look very good. There's no.
Yeah, like you can give it some new
graphics. Game on PlayStation 4, I would say, when it released, was probably NBA. I mean, a lot of people saying that the faces look really cool because you don't need to worry too much about what's going on behind the scenes. You just need to make the basketball itself look as good as you can, which works.
I guess. I mean,
problem with FIFA, you've got to render the crowd and things like that. Whereas basketball, there's not too much to render on screen.
They have a crowd, I'm pretty sure.
But it's not that big. Yeah, you've been able to do that in sports games for years. Well, that's
like I said, I don't think it's a new feature. I think they've really digging out the bottom of the bucket when it comes to new ideas for sports games, but people still buy them.
Well, did you missed the bit? It's big FIFA bit, big football bit. Crystal Palace CPFC actually made a debut in the trailer, which is very nice. Their main thing is that it's going to be very careful here with your opinions. It's going to feature for the first time women.
I won't even I won't say anything because I'm not at all into that kind of game. I don't really play FIFA. I think why is it taking so long for women to become part of it? I mean,
it's just, I guess, the stereotype, and I don't have the figures in front of me. You know, trying to look at this objectively is how many women will buy the game. But no, it's definitely
women won't buy the game because of that. Honestly,
well, that would be the reason why.
I think that the reason they're doing it is kind of just showing, we care.
Yeah, no, definitely.
We care about gender equality in sports. Look at us, we've put women in the latest game. Like, no one really gives a fuck. So.
Yeah, no, it's good that that's in there. And I guess I've definitely noticed in recent years that it's becoming maybe a lot more of a thing that I'm probably rubbish to not the person to talk about women's rights for FIFA, but no, it's good that it's in there anyway.
I won't even touch that barrel of worms or whatever. You know, that's
yeah. And I will say that if anyone has a problem with them spending developers' time on women, then literally, who are you? Like, you know.
Well, what else are they going to be spending time on?
New ball mechanics, I believe. Upping the PSI of the football.
They do that every game. Like
up the PSI of the football. One day it'll burst.
Not for me, right? Not for me.
No, FIFA's, to be honest, it's in a good place. It's doing very well. It
has a loyal customer base.
Very loyal customer base, and
it's not going anywhere.
Then you had Mirror's Edge Catalyst, which is an Origin story, and it looked very, very nice, and it will release on February the 23rd, 2016.
I'm pretty hyped for that, actually. Mirror's Edge the first one was pretty cool. I didn't play through all of it, but it had a great art style. Like, I think it was one of the first big AAA titles to really kind of push this unique art style, which was cool. Yeah, and gameplay wise, like the whole parkour thing is pretty interesting.
No, yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I got to the Mirror's Edge party a bit late, unfortunately. Yeah,
I guess it's a kind of a shame that we haven't seen more games like that. I mean, you could argue Assassin's Creed, but then I would say Assassin's Creed kind of took that concept and just shat on it. But that's my opinion.
It needed a bit less. I mean, Black Flag, I think, was very, very good. Other than that, I mean, the early ones, and then just start to get it just suffered from the usual franchise. Lack of innovation, really.
I think the Ubisoft.
Yeah, Ubisoft one is about to start. The only last thing really was Madden, which I have nothing to say about because I am not into American football. But that's just because I'm British, and most of us don't really care.
They even sell that game here.
Yeah, of course they do. No, it's got a relatively big, sales, but just
like 5
people. It's no FIFA, Yeah, so that was pretty much everything EA had to talk about, really. The main things being the Need for Speed and the sports stuff, if you're interested in that. A little bit on Mirror's Edge, but of course the main thing was Star Wars Battlefront, or should we say Battlefield. That is the end of this stream. We'll be back as soon as... Yeah, whatever. Be back as soon as the Ubisoft conference has finished. We'll be back and we go through everything that was in the Ubisoft one. So... summarize EA, got a bit boring in the middle, had a bit to talk about at the start, and then obviously mainly Star Wars at the end. Maybe slightly disappointed overall with their press conference, but yeah,
they had a hard show to live up to because Bethesda kind of blew it out of the water.
Yeah, no, definitely. They've had the best one so far.
And then Microsoft was not bad, right? They had some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah,
not amazing, but
no, it's pretty cool. Anyway, that is it for this E3 stream. We'll be back with the Ubisoft one probably in about an hour and a half's time. It will start within a few minutes of the Ubisoft one finishing. So let's look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to special guest, Mr. Oliver Gracie. That's you. You meant to say thank you.
No.
All right. Well, he's not going
to
be
back later anyway. So
he'll be back later. Well, maybe.
Well, how long is this conference?
Yeah, about an hour and a half. But it's going to start now. So thank you so much. We'll be answering your comments in the next video. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in a bit.